precisely 1:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Danushka Madhavela, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. State Minister of Higher Education to hold talks with striking university non-academic staff next Monday. Senior citizen allowance continues uninterrupted. Landslide early warnings issued to districts of Colombo, Kandy, Kegalle, Kurunegala, Nuwara and Ratnapura. President Ranil Wickremesinghe engages with several youth-oriented organizations. The Department of Irrigation says that water levels of many irrigational tanks in the country have been increased significantly. Sri Lanka and Turkmenistan hold inaugural Foreign Office consultations. And in world news, defense officials from Asian and Western countries expected to discuss Taiwan, South China Sea during Shangri-La dialogue. Now the local news in detail. State Minister of Higher Education Dr. Suren Raghavan announced plans to engage in discussions with the university non-academic staff unions currently on strike over various demands. He emphasized that the government, including President Ranil Wickremesinghe, is committed to finding the best possible resolution. State Minister Raghavan was addressing a press briefing held at the Presidential Media Centre yesterday under the theme of Collective Path to a Stable Country. The State Minister, adding to his remarks, also stated that university non-academic staff is currently on strike, which is unfortunate as it impacts the future generation of students. The strike is causing a direct financial loss of around 150 million rupees and wasting of 1.8 million man-hours. Therefore, our government must not waste any more time. He added that to meet the demands of the trade unions, including a salary increase, 1.1 billion rupees are needed for the next 6 months. He said that he was requested a report on this matter and discussions are underway with the Ministry of Finance and the Treasury to find solutions. Discussions with the union leaders currently on strike are scheduled for next Monday. The government hopes to reach a mutual agreeable solution. President Ranil Wickremesinghe and the government are committed to providing the best resolution. The Welfare Benefits Board has clarified that reports on social media claiming the cessation of allowance for the elderly with the implementation of the Aswasuma welfare scheme are false. Over 1,518 million rupees have been allocated to District Secretariat for this allowance in May 2024. All the payments were delayed due to technical issues. The board assures that the allowance for the elderly will be available from the respective divisional secretariat after the second week of June under the normal system. Additionally, the June stipend will be paid within the same month. The board is also making arrangements to credit the allowance for the elderly directly to the relevant bank accounts through a secure payment system. This allowance is available to all individuals over 70 years of age in families currently receiving a pension. The Disaster Management Centre says that more than 16,000 individuals belonging to 4,515 families have been affected due to the adverse weather condition prevailing in the country. Assistant Director of the Disaster Management Centre, Janaka Sandun Pathiraja, says that 161 people are now being placed at 4 safety camps. He added that 8 deaths have been reported so far. People in 191 divisional secretariat divisions belonging to 20 districts have been affected due to the rain weather condition at present. 28 houses have been severely damaged and more than 50,000 houses have been partially damaged. The National Building Research Organization says that the landslide warning issued to several districts yesterday will be extended further. Accordingly, the Landslide Early Warning Center of the National Building Research Organization has issued landslide early warnings to the districts of Colombo, Kandy, Kegalle, Kurunegala, Nuwara and Ratnapura valid until 7 a.m. tomorrow. Accordingly, Level 2 landslide early warnings have been issued to the Divisional Secretaries' divisions and surrounding areas of Ambagamo in the Nuwara district and Ratnapura, Balangoda, Ahaliyagoda and Imbulpe in Ratnapura district. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Continuing local news. The Department of Irrigation says that water levels of many irrigational tanks in the country have been increased significantly. Engineer of the Department of Irrigation, Mrs. Sakura Dilhara, says that water levels have been increased up to 80% of its capacity in many irrigational tanks at present. President Ranil Wickremesinghe hosted a gathering of several youth-oriented organizations in a significant event titled Youth Dialogue, Sri Lankan Youth Leaders of Tomorrow. The President interacted with youth representatives on a variety of topics including the ongoing reform agenda and recovery efforts initiated by the government. This event was part of an ongoing youth engagement program organized by the Presidential Secretariat. Emphasizing the pivotal role of youth in shaping Sri Lanka's future, President Wickremesinghe highlighted the importance of their involvement in the country's journey towards success. Responding to inquiries from the enthusiastic youth participants, the President welcomed their engagement and directed his staff members to collaborate with them. He instructed them to devise a concrete mechanism and strategize an effective utilizing their skills and perspectives of the youth. The inaugural session of the Foreign Office consultations between Sri Lanka and the Turkmenistan was held on 30th May 2024. This virtual event saw representatives from both nations engage in fruitful discussions aimed at strengthening ties across various domains. Key highlights included the exploration of avenues for cooperation in the political and diplomatical spheres, parliamentary engagements, economic sectors, energy, transport, education and culture. Both sides acknowledged the potential for mutual benefit and emphasized the importance of sustained high-level visits to foster increased cooperation. The dialogue explored potential investment opportunities and areas for collaboration, particularly in the oil and gas, textile and apparel, agriculture, food processing, pharmaceutical and IT sectors. Additionally, the possibility of organizing a Turkmen-Sri Lanka business forum was proposed to facilitate business connections. Both sides appreciated recently held online meetings to explore cooperation among port authorities and Chamber of Commerce. It was agreed to have online meetings between the legal teams of the two countries to finalize the pending agreements and strengthen the legal framework. Other areas of cooperation such as culture, art, sport, tourism and education were also discussed. That ends local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
State Minister of Higher Education Dr. Surendra Raghavan announced plans to engage in discussions with the university non-academic staff unions currently on strike over various demands. He emphasized that the government, including President Ranil Wickremesinghe, is committed to finding the best possible resolution. State Minister Raghavan was addressing a press briefing held at the Presidential Media Centre yesterday under the theme of Collective Path to a Stable Country. That came to you in main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight. The Animal Production and Health Department yesterday said the daily consumption of eggs in the country has increased by about over 1 million. The department emphasized that the daily egg consumption was 7 million eggs and in the last few months that amount has exceeded over 8 million eggs. Department officials during a meeting with Agriculture Minister Mahinda Amaravira said that the surge in the influx of tourists visiting Sri Lanka, the rise in meat and fish prices and the public's recognition of eggs as a nutritious food option have contributed to the upsurge in egg consumption. The minister instructed the ministry's livestock division to conduct a consumer survey on the consumption of eggs, milk and meat, since a proper information survey has not been done for a long time. That came to you in Watchlight.
Coming up, World News.
Taking a look at the headlines of the world news, defense officials from Asian and Western countries expected to discuss Taiwan, South China Sea during Shangri-La dialogue. India's real GDP up 8.2% in fiscal 2023. Philippines warns China against acts of war. Now the world news in detail. Defense officials from Asian and Western countries started a 3-day conference in Singapore on Friday called the Shangri-La Dialogue. They expected to discuss security issues in Asia, including Taiwan, the South China Sea and North Korea. Participants include U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Japanese Defense Minister Koichiro Minoru, and Chinese Defense Minister Dong Zhuang. Diplomatic sources say Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky will also take part. Earlier on Friday, Austin and Dong held a separate meeting. It was the first face-to-face talks between defense chiefs of their countries in about a year and a half. U.S. and Chinese officials say Austin and Dong agreed to continue dialogue between defense officials. But the two sides failed to narrow their differences over Taiwan and the South China Sea. Tensions between the U.S. and China are growing over Asia and the Pacific. The Chinese military says it carried out mock attacks crossing what Beijing considers a defense line against the U.S. during an exercise around Taiwan last week. India's economy continued to see high growth in fiscal 2023, with real gross domestic product expanding 8.2%. Government officials made the announcement on Friday. The figure is up 1.2 percentage points from the previous year. The growth is attributed mainly to robust performance in the manufacturing, construction, real estate and financial sectors. India has a population of 1.4 billion with many young people, and the country is expected to maintain high economic growth. But there are also challenges such as unemployment among young people and the development of rural areas where more than 60% of the population reside. India is currently holding a general election, and economic policy is a key issue. Ballots will continue nationwide on June 4th. Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has warned China not to cross a red line in the South China Sea, where a standoff between the countries continues to escalate. If any Filipino died as a result of China's willful actions, he said, the Philippines would consider it as close to an act of war and responded accordingly. Mr. Marcos was speaking at a security forum in Singapore attended by defense chiefs from around the world, including the U.S. and China. In response, the Chinese military spokesman accused the Philippines of deflecting the blame on China and smearing and attacking. In recent months, the long-standing dispute between China and the Philippines over territory in the South China Sea has sharpened into aggressive clashes. Manila has complained vociferously about Chinese patrol ships firing water cannon at Philippine boats and supply vessels. Beijing has said that it is defending its sovereignty. Earlier on Friday, a Chinese military spokesman accused the Philippines of making provocations. That ends World News. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the World News once again. Defense officials from Asian and Western countries expected to discuss Taiwan, South China Sea during Shangri-La dialogue. India's real GDP up 8.2% in fiscal 2023. Philippines warns China against acts of war. That ends World News. Moving on to development news. The government of Sri Lanka is pleased to acknowledge the entry into force of the BIMSTEC Charter on the 20th of this month, marking a historic milestone in the 27th year journey of the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. The BIMSTEC Charter, which establishes the legal and institutional framework for the organizations, is a significant development which is expected to strengthen regional cooperation and interrogation within the Bay of Bengal region, providing new opportunities for development and collaborating among the BIMSTEC member states. With the entry into force of the chapter, Sri Lanka is confident that all member states will prioritize the implementation of agreed measures to strengthen regional cooperation. The government also encourages the public and stakeholders to recognize the significance of this opportunity for enhancing connectivity, economic growth and partnership within the Bay of Bengal region. That came to you in Development News.
Moving on with sports news.
Following an anti-corruption investigation by the UK cricket regulator, England cricketer Brydon Carse has been suspended from all cricket for 16 months, with 13 months of that ban being suspended for 2 years. Carse was charged with placing 303 bets on various cricket matches between 2017 and 2019. Carse did not place bets on games in which he was participating. He accepted the charges, cooperated with the cricket regulator throughout the investigation, and has demonstrated significant remorse for his actions. Other significant mitigating factors were considered by the cricket regulator and the Cricket Discipline Commission when determining the sanction. Carse will be suspended from playing in any cricket between 28 May 2024 and 28 August 2024. That came to you in Sports News.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs, M.U.M. Ali Sabri, in his capacity as the current chair of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, inaugurated the IORA Business Enclave on last Tuesday in Colombo. The Business Enclave, under the theme Sustaining Growth, Bridging Horizons, was organized by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce as the current chair of the IORA Business Forum in collaborating with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Over 80 participants from the business fraternity across the IORA region participated in the enclave. This is the highest number of participants recorded at an IORA business enclave. That came to you in Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru Mithru account, NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Moving on to economic news. The Ceylon Petroleum Corporation has revised its fuel prices with effect from midnight last night. Accordingly, the price of petrol octane 92 will be reduced by 13 rupees to 355 rupees per litre, while auto diesel is to be reduced by 16 rupees to 317 rupees per litre. Kerosene has been reduced by 13 rupees to 202 rupees. Meanwhile, the prices of petrol 95 octane and super diesel will remain unchanged, according to the CPETCO. Lanka Indian Oil Corporation too has decided to revise its fuel prices, mirroring the state-owned oil company's move. That came to you in economic news.
Weather report.
Finally, we take a look at the weather report. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in western, Sabaragamuwa, central and southern provinces. Several spells of showers may occur in northwestern province. Heavy showers, about 100 millimeters are likely at some places in western and Sabaragamuwa provinces and in Galle, Mathura and Nuwara districts. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in Uva, north central and eastern provinces and in Mullaitivu district in the evening or night. That came to you in the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. State Minister of Higher Education to hold talks with striking university non-academic staff next Monday. Senior citizen allowance continues uninterrupted. Landslide early warnings issued to districts of Colombo, Kandy, Kegalle, Kurunegala, Nuwara and Ratnapura. President Ranil Wickremesinghe engages with several youth-oriented organizations. The Department of Irrigation says that water levels of many irrigational tanks in the country have been increased significantly. Sri Lanka and Turkmenistan hold inaugural Foreign Office consultations. With that, we conclude the news, and over to my friend and certainly yours who's all geared up to keep you entertained with a wonderful collection of music. Over to you, Dilshan.